As the golden light of sunset spilled across the serene pastures of Meadowbrook Ranch, the mechanical whir of the main gate broke the calm. With a harsh metallic clang, it slammed shut, cutting off two startled horses mid-gallop. Seconds later, an ear-splitting alarm shattered the peace. Sirens blared, strobe lights burst to life, and chaos swept across the valley like a brushfire. At the keypad stood Karen Peterson, HOA president and self-appointed guardian of community values, arms folded and face pale as she realized her spiteful scheme had ignited a disaster she couldn't control. My name's Jake Donovan, rancher, veteran, and someone who minds his business. I moved into Meadowbrook Ranch for the space, the quiet, and the promise of a horse-friendly community. But Karen saw me as a threat the moment I unloaded thunder and lightning into the pasture. Maybe it was because I actually used my barn for horses instead of hanging decorative wreaths on it like it was a Pottery Barn catalog. Or maybe it was because I didn't grovel to the pastel iron fist that had ruled the HOA for nearly a decade. Things started subtly. Passive-aggressive notes about hoofprints on the trail, despite it being a horse trail. Complaints that my horses whinnied too early in the morning, all while her Pomeranian barked non-stop like a car alarm in a kennel. I tried to be civil, brought her a carton of fresh eggs from my chickens as a neighborly gesture. She looked at them like I'd offered her radioactive waste and said she only ate certified organic, store-purchased eggs. 2 weeks in, she showed up with a clipboard and measuring tape, claiming my horse trailer was 3 inches over the line. When I pointed out the paint was off and cited the original property survey, she sniffed and said she'd be consulting the blueprints. The next morning, a $30 fine was taped to my trailer. Pending review. Then came the horse height fiasco. I was out of state for a veterans gathering when I got a call from Margaret Cooper, my elderly neighbor and honorary guardian angel. She reported that Karen had entered my pasture, with a stepladder, and was measuring thunder. When I returned, I found an official violation notice. Thunder exceeded the HOA's height limit by 2 inches. A rule buried deep on page 97 of a handbook no one had opened since fax machines were cutting edge. From there, it snowballed. Karen resurrected every dusty bylaw she could dig up. Hay storage had to follow approved geometries. I needed a permit for my trailer, even though I'd already gotten one. And yes, she trespassed again to remeasure both horses while I was at work. But the worst came when she discovered she could control the community's electronic gates. With her admin privileges, she reprogrammed the schedule, making sure the gates slammed shut every morning at 7 a.m., *right*, when I exercised the horses. I raised the issue at the monthly HOA meeting, presenting a petition signed by a dozen fellow residents. Karen waved it off, claiming it was invalid without triplicate notice filed 72 hours ahead. When board member Tom Bradley asked where that rule came from, she gave him a stare that could freeze boiling water and promised to send him the bylaws. He never got them. Soon, Karen was rallying allies, convincing newer residents that my horses hurt their property values, even though this was literally a ranch community with a horse silhouette on the welcome sign. She held hush-hush meetings at her house, spreading nonsense about me being a disruptive outsider. Margaret Cooper was invited once and reported back with tales of wine, cheese, and gossip aimed squarely at me. But the real climax came one Tuesday afternoon. I was walking Thunder and Lightning back from the north pasture. Just as Thunder stepped through the main gate, it slammed shut behind him, trapping him between metal bars while Lightning, still outside, panicked. Thunder reared, nearly crushing me. Lightning bolted in frantic circles, neighing for his partner. What Karen hadn't considered in her vendetta was the integrated emergency response system tied to that $50000 gate. Installed after a wildfire nearly destroyed the valley years ago, the system was designed to detect obstructions and large animals during closures. When the gate closed on Thunder, the system went into full livestock emergency mode. Sirens screamed. Red strobe lights lit up every roof and fence. An automated voice crackled over loudspeakers, issuing evacuation instructions. Garage doors opened across the neighborhood for potential animal shelter. A drone launched, scanning for injuries. Within minutes, responders poured in, Bill Morrison from the fire station, Dr. Patricia Wells, the large animal vet, and Sarah Chen from animal control. Karen came running, furiously tapping her phone, trying to cancel the alert, but the system had already locked her out. Only emergency personnel could shut it down now. She stood there in shock as neighbors emerged from their homes, drawn by the commotion. Bill asked what happened. I explained. Karen insisted it was a technical glitch, but Sarah wasn't buying it. She pulled up the gate's access log on her tablet. There it was, 17 manual overrides in the past month, all from K. Peterson, all aligning perfectly with my morning routine. Even worse. The gate's security camera caught Karen standing at the keypad that very afternoon, grinning as she punched in the override code while watching us approach on the community app. Bill's face darkened. Falsely triggering an emergency? That could mean up to $10,000 in fines. Endangering livestock? That added criminal charges. Using HOA authority for harassment? A violation of state and HOA bylaws. As the crowd grew, so did the revelations. Tom finally stood up, admitting Karen had threatened to fine him over a party his daughter threw unless he voted her way on board issues. Susan Hartley confessed that Karen used a hedge violation as leverage to control her vote. Margaret Cooper stepped forward with a manila folder. Inside were years of emails, fake fines, and screenshots, proof of Karen's long-term harassment against residents. Deputy Rodriguez arrived soon after, reviewing everything. Karen's access was revoked on the spot. She was placed under investigation for reckless endangerment, filing a false emergency, and misusing community systems. The list of infractions was longer than her HOA resume. That night, an emergency HOA meeting was held. The room was standing room only. Dozens of residents, many I'd never even met, stood up and shared their own horror stories. Karen had fined the Johnsons for an unapproved garden gnome, forced the Millers to rip up a memorial garden for their daughter, and cited Dr. Wells for parking after hours during an emergency vet call. The vote to remove Karen from the board was unanimous. Even her loyalists had had enough. But her downfall didn't stop there. The investigation revealed she'd siphoned HOA funds to hire a private security firm, install unauthorized cameras, and retain a personal lawyer for disputes with residents. The total misuse amounted to over $23,000. The county filed charges. The judge sentenced her to 18 months probation, $10,000 in fines, restitution for the emergency response and my vet bills, and 200 hours of community service, at the local horse rescue center. When the ruling came down, Karen's face turned every shade of red and purple. She tried to protest, claiming she was the victim of anti-suburban bias. The judge cut her off with a reminder. She chose to live in an equestrian community, then tried to destroy the very culture it was built on. Now, Karen's HOA presidency is over. Her real estate license has been revoked. And her name is mud from one pasture to the next. The barn lights glow a little warmer these days, the trails are peaceful again, and every morning when I walk thunder and lightning through the gate, it stays wide open. Just like the future of Meadowbrook Ranch.